Hello, everybody. The podcast is gonna start now. I'm just gonna wait for a couple people to just start rolling in, waiting for my co-host to also come on in, and I'm just gonna do some pre-production things, and so getting it ready. What's going on, Dario? Pleased to meet you, man. I just started following your page. I listened to some of the music, saw some of the views. Everything was beautiful, and just excited to be chopping it up with you in the future. So, right now we're live. So thank you for pulling up. Now we're just waiting for Pam. And if you have any questions, or any plugs, man, I'm down to plug some things while we're here because we got some air. This recording is going to be recorded and saved and put up on Spotify afterwards too. So that's what we're up to. But yeah, I'm really super excited for this show right now. Okay, here comes Pam. I'm excited. I like using the word energized. I am energized. Very, very energized. 3, 2, 1. Wait. Accept. Let's see. Oh, here we go.
What's up, guys? Hold on, I'm like fixing my ring light right now.
All right, awesome.
I don't know
Is
what's
my
that.
sound good?
Your sound is good. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Hey guys, sorry. Oh my God, we just hopped off such an incredible call, and we couldn't leave the call because
it was too good.
it was too good. There was no way we could leave the call. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Hey Dario, how are you? What's up, Dario Padrino? Hey guys, sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. I'm like in the middle of fixing my ring light. I don't know what's better, warm or nothing. I'm gonna do nothing. I'm gonna do this. I think this is all right. Wow, I'm so happy to be. I'm so excited. I don't know what you already told everyone. So hold up.
I was just warming them up. I haven't said anything. I'm just like, okay, look, we got a little bit of time to talk in the green room, so
Yeah. Well, this is so exciting. This is our first podcast, right? This is our first podcast.
Our first podcast, first episode.
Our first part. You can hear me well, right?
I hear you just
perfectly. All right, perfect. So who wants to begin? You begin.
I begin?
You begin. Yeah,
okay,
you begin.
So welcome to the show. This is Masterminds with Pam and Brian. We got the name from the chapter in Think and Grow Rich about masterminds, and being a part of a mastermind is essentially a group of like-minded individuals with particular set of skills, kind of like Ocean's 13 if you want to think about it like that. And everybody has different skill sets, so when you mastermind, you want to meet at least once or twice a week and lend an ear and any of your expertise to one another, because entrepreneurship and creativity is not a solo endeavor. It's a team effort, and thinking and growing rich is a team effort. So therefore, this is our mastermind. We started off by doing these masterminds every Thursday since, I would even say, July, when we first met. From the minute we met, it was like, yo, we're on it. You were showing me tricks on the charts, and we were talking about a lot of personal development. We were reading to one another like, yo, this is my favorite chapter in the science of getting rich. This is my favorite chapter in the power of awareness. And we would have those discussions and just continue to build. And I'd say that from those talks, I've grown so much. But I'm going to give a little bit of information on who I am. My name is Brian. I go by Veggies3K on Instagram. This is my logo right here. I've been an artist for God knows when. All I do is create art projects and experiment, and I've always been this way. I've had some podcasts in the past. I've been part of a rap collective. I used to play guitar and be the head of the music club in my college, all those things. So within the last 3 years, I picked up trading, and that was a long journey of successes and failures, and different, doing things right, doing things wrong, poor mentorship, decent mentorship, to then find the more you learn, the more you can figure out where you fit in if you're persistent enough. you'll be able to find yourself within the true teachers, the true mentors that can really help you elevate your game at that point that you are, you know? So it's very, very important. If you're taking on an endeavor like this, you have to persist because you're on the right path. You got to put in the pain. You got to put the purpose on the pain, you know? So fast forward 3 years, I'm having I got beautiful news on my birthday that I'm gonna have a baby boy. My birthday's June 6th. And then I got into personal development off of a Instagram ad, like, and so because I read a book, Bob Proctor. Then, you're friends with my love, with Kellen, and she suggested, hey, I have this friend. She lives in the jungle, and she day trades too. You should definitely hit her up. And it took me a while to actually do it, but then when I did it, we were off on the races. So I would even say, yo, listen to your woman sometimes, man. They know they're looking out for your best interest. I should have listened to her earlier. I should have hit you up 3 months earlier because I'll be 3 months further down the line. But so I'm super excited to be doing this podcast with you because if we can just share what we've been doing every Thursday for the last 6 months, I think so many people will get great value. But I'll give you the mic now, and you introduce yourself and tell your story. And
That's so exciting. Oh my God, I'm so excited. I feel so like jittery, like of excitement because I just like you said, like we met July and it feels like it's been so much longer. I don't know, this year kind of feels like short but long at the same time because I've been in my passion for the whole year, so it kind of feels like wow, July feels so long ago. I don't know if anybody here is experiencing that. But anyway, so like Brian mentioned, once we met, I actually saw that he was friends with Kellen, his girl, and I was like, hey, did you go to Gramercy? And he was like, actually, I'm her partner. And we just started talking and stuff. And like he mentioned, we started doing these masterminds. And about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we were like, I felt like other people would benefit from this, right? Just us talking, just having a weekly mastermind, a weekly call where we're talking, we're sharing. How was our week? How is trading? What's going on with crypto? How's it going with music? How's it going with painting? Just like having, a friendship where you could talk to someone and talk about goals, right? And that's why we do this, right? To talk about goals, to talk about what's going well in our life, as opposed to some interactions that we might have with some people where we talk to them and you leave the phone call and you kind of feel like drained of energy. I don't know if you guys, I'm sure everyone here has felt that way and has someone in their life that makes them feel that way. Doesn't mean that they're not a good person. It's just that they're not probably on the same frequency as you are in when you're on entrepreneurship journey. And I posted a reel the other day it was yesterday actually. I posted a reel that was like, when people were calling you crazy for doing your like little Zoom business and like investing into crypto, and then now it turns out that people are messaging me like, oh, I wish I started 2 years ago. You can start now, right? And that's not the point of this, but the point is that us just doing these masterminds, we realize let's turn this into a podcast because we're pretty chatty. We're always talking about personal development. We're always talking about some form of goal setting, some form of improvement in our lives, and just sharing this and with other people. And our vision is to grow this. For those of you who are a part of our community, like I know you've seen Nina and J.A. Wall and Nina in their in their podcast room, and it's like, yo, I want that one day, right? That's our mission of this, is to start here on IG. Like Brian mentioned in the beginning, I think he mentioned like abstracting this and taking it into Spotify, YouTube, and all of that. So really growing our brand, our mastermind brand, and also just bridging that gap between creative individuals and financial freedom. And that's where I want to go into my story. For those of you who are not following me, for those of you who are just meeting me, right? I know there's some people that, you guys are my homies, but for those new people that don't know who I am, I'm Pamela. I'm from New York. I was born and raised in New York. My parents are immigrants from Bulgaria. And unfortunately, my mom didn't have the right foundation when she came to New York in the 90s. So she ended up being homeless. She was in a shelter when she was pregnant with me. And my two older sisters who were born in Bulgaria. And I grew up in low-income housing. I grew up in the hood in Queens. And I just always felt like such an oddball. I was always like, yo, I really don't feel like I belong here. Like I really feel like there's a bigger purpose for me. I always felt super connected to God, super connected to this, spirituality. I always felt like this is not my first life. Like ever since I was a child, I was always like the observer. And so unfortunately my sister passed away when I was 11, and that's when I turned into a painter because I didn't know how to express myself. I didn't know how to talk. I was already a shy, timid child. Like I was already an oddball. So to add trauma on top of to a shy child, it was like it made me even more closed off. I went to therapy and I didn't talk. Like we would play board games in therapy, and the only thing that got me to express myself was painting. So I decided, I want to go to art high school. I went to art high school. Once I was done with art high school, I went to FIT. I graduated with a bachelor's in fine arts, right? And that's my that's 100% one of my biggest missions is to create paintings that move you, that are emotional, that talk about the human experience, that talk about spirituality, right? The relationship between insanity and spiritual awakening and just all of that, like talk about what it means to be a human here on earth. And that's my goal. But as I was going along, after art school, I traveled for 3 months. I realized that I don't want to be in New York, right? I don't want to be living in the hood anymore, right? I have people I need to take care of. So how can I make all of this happen? Because when you're an artist, no matter what form of artist you are, and we're reading a book right now called The Artisan Soul, which is everybody's an artist at the end of the day, right? We're here expressing, our soul. But for those of you who identify yourself as an artist in some form, we're already like, I don't want my own boss. Like we're already like, we don't want authority, right? We already have that inside of us, right? The thing is as an artist, there's this struggling artist mentality, especially in New York. I don't know in other places, but especially in New York, it's like, I remember being in art school, like, do I buy lunch or do I go to Blick and buy like that color that I wanted to buy, like that pink color I wanted to buy that was like $40 a tube, right? And then I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm just not gonna eat lunch. I'm gonna go buy the $40 like pink tube,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, why do we have to choose between being our creative selves and money, right?
Right.
For me, it was really something that was like, hitting a wall for me because I want to be a multimillionaire. Like my soul is already a multimillionaire, right? I'm just waiting for reality to like catch up with the future, right? Right, the near future. And why do artists feel so shy when it comes around money? Why are we shy to ask for a certain amount of money for our work, whether that's music or painting or getting a gig book? Like artists, we need to learn how to not be afraid of being wealthy and abundant and expressing our soul, because at the end of the day, if you have all of the money that you could ever need to create your artwork, would you feel shy about it? Like you would be happy. You would be confident, right? You would be expressing yourself any shape, form, like any way that you can, and you wouldn't mold to what society wants. And so I remember after I went traveling, I took to go back, to my long story. I went on a little tangent. I got too excited on that
No,
part. But
you was inspired. That's an
I
inspired
got a
moment.
little too inspired on that part. I went on a little bit of tangent, but it all comes together to my way of thinking and why I have multiple hats, why I do multiple things, why I consider myself an entrepreneur, and you as well, Brian, and the people who are listening to this right now in some form or way. I know that you want to be able to express yourself without the money of like, I don't have the money, right? We want to go away from that mentality. We want to go to full abundance mentality, our fullest creative expression. And so when I went traveling for 3 months. I remember being on that flight back home. Like I just spent like all like half my savings account that I spent 4 years saving for. Like, I denied a job at the new museum. I was gonna get a job at the new museum. I denied the job because I wanted to travel. And I just remember being on the flight back home, like, and my sister being like, "You're like so stupid," right? In a good way. She was like, she's trying to help me, but you're, like, I don't know if she used the word stupid, but she made me feel bad for traveling and not getting a job and saving my money. And she just made me feel like I did something wrong. And I told her, watch, I'm going to get a job like the first day I get back. Like, I told her, I'm going to get, don't worry, right? She was always my mom because when my
You're moving
older
with faith.
sister, yeah, I was moving more faith, and she was always a mom figure. She always wanted the best for me because when my oldest sister died, my mom kind of fell off the rails. So my other older sister, she took care of me. So when I went traveling and spent all my money, she was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I got this." So I ended up getting a job with a famous painter that same week. Like the next day, I sent him my resume by knowing a connection, by network. And while I was working for him, I realized something very special. And he taught me, you don't only have to be a painter, right? Obviously, that's your way of expressing yourself. But you can use the money that you make for painting to do other things that you enjoy. Like for him, he created a summer camp for kids in Tennessee to be able to have access to art, right? So he's using the money that he's making with painting, being an artist, his influence, and doing something good for the world. And when I used to work for him, I worked for him for like 4 years. It was literally like going to school, right? When I worked, because in art school, they don't teach you how to actually make money from your work. You have painting class, you have sculpting class, you have printmaking, drawing, you got all of this. But we have one class in our last semester that talks about business. What about the other 3.5 years that I've been in art school and I have no idea how to sell myself as an artist, right? And what I learned from him is his network. He was a businessman and not only an artist. And it started like opening my mind and my horizon on what can I do as a creative person. And so when I came across trading and investing, it was like immediate. It was like my mind was already open. I already knew that I wanted something. I wanted financial freedom. I knew I wanted to leave New York. So when trading and investing came to me, I was like, the worst that could happen is this doesn't work. The worst that could happen is I don't like it. That's the worst that could happen. But I was open to everything and anything that could give me that expressive freedom. Long story short, I'm here living in Mexico because I decided to go ahead and start personal development in a serious way. Like I decided to start educating myself on cryptocurrency. I decided to start learning how to read a chart, like not just entering in the market because Bitcoin is at 100K, right? No, waiting for a pullback, right? Learning all of those things that I didn't know before. And that's why I'm passionate about this podcast, right? That's why I'm passionate about Masterminds with Brian and Pam, Pam and Brian, however you want to say it, they both work. Because Brian here, he's a trader. We're doing e-commerce together. We're learning how to create an e-commerce store, and he's a musician, right? So we're two artists in this space. I was already manifesting. For those of you who are following me, you definitely saw that reel that I posted over the summer where I was like, I want to help other creative people learn how to invest. And here I am. There's another creative person here with me, expanding my reach. We're doing this together, right? I believe that we can totally grow this podcast into not only these IG lives, but something substantial where we're going to talk about art. We're going to talk about music. We're going to talk about bridging that gap between crypto and for foreign exchange and stocks and e-com and all of that. And so that is my really long story that also led into some of the mission. Do you have anything you would like to say, Brian?
No, that's a wonderful story. And yes, we want to bridge the gap between the creative and digital entrepreneurship because we're living in a time where we're moving away from the industrial revolution. You would the Rockefeller like education system to bring people as to like it was designed as a gift to industrial workers, but it was also created to create industrial workers, to create specializations, put people in these boxes to build out these institutions. But now with the power of technology, with the environment that we're living in, that old world industrial revolution mindset, it's time for a shift. The world always turns, you know. So as you start to see the environment change, you're starting to see creatives make a ton of money. Like creatives, like the artist has been elevated to these rock star, superstar levels. The whole reason why we say rock stars is because of rock stars, you know? Just the concept that now we can amplify um these sentiments, these ideas. Like companies needed artists to market their ideas. They can't live without them. Now with technology, we can have our own products. We can take into our own hands what is completely capable of us. Because like if you think about it, a creative is just taking ideas and shaping it to fit their survival. Being creative, like what is it? Necessity is the mother of invention. You know,
Ooh,
what's
I
an
like that.
entrepreneur doing? Solving problems. What is a creative doing? Solving problems, but just at a different frequency. If we're looking at creatives as like an artist that's like visual art, auditory art, conceptual art, you know, we're living on all these different layers. And now with things like technology, we're able to like bridge those layers. Like why can't somebody that is living in the abstract like an artist, why can't they come over here and touch some of the material things, shape it using design and engineering, and really make something happen, you know, and be able to now amplify that so that the world can get their gifts. And then the other way around, people that are really, really good at material things start to seeing themselves as creative problem solvers for issues, you know, that we're having in the world. You know, right now you're starting to see a lot of entrepreneurs talk, well, they've been talking about it for a lot of years now, about like, you know, using their entrepreneurial powers to solve bigger problems around the world. You know, we have plenty of problems. So things like that, you know, and the way I see it is that now that we have the power, we have the responsibility, right?
Yeah.
With great power comes great responsibility. So it's really our job to stay on the cutting edge of all information, which is at our fingertips, that we should never be intimidated by. Because yesterday we were talking about like this podcast, and Pam, you came up with the concept like, wait a second, you know, now that we're talking about this, you were like, we're living under like a new renaissance where, you know, it's okay to be a polymath. It's okay to be multidisciplinary, you know, to be like a Leonardo da Vinci that's studying mathematics, studying biology, studying architecture, studying paint, you know, taking on all these different projects. If you think about like a website like Patreon is a patron. And what did Leonardo da Vinci have? Patrons, people that paid him to just be creative, and they kind of hoped and prayed that he'd finish their work so they could have some of their work. Because you know I like to tell the story of Leonardo da Vinci to give creatives the permission that like Leonardo da Vinci would take all projects on, and that's how he funded his life. But guess what? He left a graveyard of unfinished work as well. So it's like, okay, if you're just, you know, starting things, maybe not finishing, then going to the thing that actually ends up being finished, you know, you just never know. So it's okay to just go and explore, because that's what a creative is. We look down upon that in society because everything needs to follow a step-by-step end. But like curiosity takes us so far. You don't realize how much you can do with the right, you know, mentorship, the right community, with you know, being plugged in the right way. So yeah, like I'm I'm very happy and grateful that we're using a platform like this to really start to integrate and express these ideas that just have been incubating for the last couple months with us.
Wow.
You know?
I just like when we were talking, and I was like, wow, it really feels like the time of the Renaissance, like in a new digital futuristic way. And when I really thought about it, like I would totally be like a Renaissance woman because I have so many goals and aspirations and visions, and sometimes within myself I'm also like, I was playing like a tug of war, like, okay, I want to paint, but I also like want to help people, but I also want to study the charts, right? But I also need to cook, right? And like all of these things. And I want to create, you know, I want to create performance art. I want to create installation art, right? I want to be a motivational speaker. I want to write multiple books. And sometimes I myself get like, wow, like when am I going to find the time to do this? And then I remind myself, this is why I have a lifetime. This is why I have a
Have a
lifetime.
lifetime.
This is why I have different decades in my life, and all of us, right? I don't know if you guys can hear the dogs barking in the background. I apologize if you can. But I like to keep my door open on a side note so I can feel like I'm outside, like in the jungle, until the mosquitoes start coming in and they start like messing me up at night. So if you ever hear dogs or something, just know it's part of the jungle life. So, yeah, side note. I lost my train. Yes, I'm definitely like, I got to remind myself that this is why I have a lifetime, right? Right now in my life, I'm 28, I'm turning 29, right? There's some pressure in myself as well. Like, do I want a family? Do I want kids, right? Is that part of my journey, right? I want to go back to art school for my master's. I also want to build a massive business of helping other people learn how to trade and invest, because honestly, I want to be able to be like, I'm withdrawing some crypto profit to pay for my Yale intuition, right? Or my intuition for like, my tuition for art school. I would love to be able to like, just be like, you know, I'm going to take out some crypto profits or I'm going to pay for my tuition, right? That's going to be like a major accomplishment on my part. And I have to remind myself like the idea of like the Renaissance, right? That it's okay to have multiple projects happening at the same time, right? It's totally okay. And I actually started, I had to revisit my why as to why I even started like trading and investing. And it was to paint. And when I went to the Monterrey convention, which I met some of you guys who were on this call there, and it was such a blessing. But when I went to the Monterrey convention, I stayed a day after, you know, after the convention, and I went to museums. And it was like just being at the convention, being around all that energy, being around multimillionaires, being around people who have like the goals that I, you know, aspire to, is like, wow, I was full of so much energy. And then going to a museum the day after really reignited the purpose and the why. And I told myself, like, I need to stop playing this tug of war of, am I a painter? Or am I here to like help other people? I can do both. I can do many things at one time. And I even gave myself a project. Okay, I'm going to do this, this, and that before I can allow myself to paint. Because at the end of the day, I'm here to create a mass. Like, I want my paintings to be in the MoMA. Like, I want to be known in art history as a painter. But before I can give myself that dream, I need to work on the mission that God gave me, which is to like, painting is almost like my like soul's what's the right word? My soul's like dessert. I don't know how to explain it. There's a word on the tip of my tongue. I don't know if you can help me. It's like
Dharma?
like, huh?
Dharma?
No, it's like my soul's like pleasure.
Okay.
It's like my
So,
soul's
so
pleasure, right?
soul's delight.
Soul's
Delight?
delight, right? Painting's like my soul's delight. Like, yes, I love when, yes, I can move people with my paintings,
Purpose.
100%. That's like my soul's delight. Yeah, my soul's pleasure, right? I like the word pleasure, right? Because that's what I love to do.
Mm-hmm.
But then I also have to realize that God gave me a mission as well, right? And God gave me a mission to help other people, you know, become financially independent. Like, I feel that, like, the more I'm doing this, the more I feel like this is God's mission for me. So I have to make sure that I do that as well. And
Definitely.
yeah, that was my intake on the Renaissance comment, right? And I really feel like this is how me and Brian talk, like on our masterminds. And maybe there's a little bit more pressure because it's like the first day, but I really want this, like, we really want this to just be a flow of him and I bouncing each other's ideas, talking about different things that's happening in the market, happening in e-com, in art, in general.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, for sure. So definitely we want to make this a hub where these ideas are constantly floating around, because the power's in the repetition. Everybody here knows that is good at anything that they've really cleaned up in skill isn't the repetition, and your mindset is a repetition. And so like I have this I'm gonna make a video about this in the following weeks, but I'm gonna be breaking down the chapters of Think and Grow Rich in a very concise way, because I keep a flashcard of the chapters. You know, you've seen it where I say that maybe the first 8 chapters are basically the software, then the next 3 chapters are the hardware, and then the final one is like troubleshooting common problems. So that way that I've kind of analyzed the book. So, you know, the book starts off with desire, autosuggestion, and faith, right? Desire being your ability to say, I really want something. I'm like, okay, I'm acknowledging that I want something, which is a struggle for a lot of people. Being able to like acknowledge that they want something. That's a huge mental block. We teach ourselves so much to deny ourselves like things that are calling us, like a child that can't have the thing that they want, you know, like in many ways, that inner child, you know. So that desire is the first part, and it's the first chapter for a reason, because it's like that's very difficult for us. Then the next chapter is autosuggestion, and this is what I'm getting at. The repetition. Autosuggestion is the minute that you admit that you have a desire, remind yourself of it constantly. Let it remind yourself. Remember what you want to do. Like, you know, like remember, like start from the center of like where you're trying to go. You know, your desire is basically the breadcrumbs of where you're trying to go. And then the final one is not the final one, but the third chapter is faith. And that's the emotion. It is the emotion that you inject into your desire and your reminders that it can happen. It will happen. You know, faith is an emotion. That is the next part. So admit that you want something. Remind yourself constantly about it and believe that it's for you, you know? And then the further down the line you go with the chapters is just different versions of persistence. It's like persistence is one, seeking knowledge is another one, masterminding is coming together with other people that have that persistence and that desire. This is all going to be on the YouTube, so you can like rewatch it, because you want to remind yourself of this. And all different conversations that we have are reminders of this, and it's like a reinforcement, because what happens is that our brains are wired for repetition. Guess what? We're not taught to think like this all the time. We get distracted. We were talking about Outwitting the Devil. It's another book by Napoleon Hill. And the key word in Outwitting the Devil is what the devil wants to do is distract you, get you off track. There's a track that you're on. He wants you off of it. You know, he wants you off that track. Like, oh, okay, like, you know, forget about it. Go watch Netflix. Go, you know, nothing wrong with a little, you know, moment. Exactly. Drifting, you know. So, and drifting, the opposite of drifting is persistence. So it's the repetition. So the more that we can cultivate the energy and the reminders of our goals and our ambitions, the more we can find ourselves studying for longer hours, collaborating and being open and finding new opportunities in our lives. It's through repetition that you find your opportunities. You know, you choose your lane, and then from your lane, if you're in your lane long enough, opportunities are going to start popping up. You're going to start understanding the language that your path is trying to speak to you. But if you're on another path and speaking a different language, you're not gonna put together the pieces. So that's why we're holding this space. We're holding this space for the purpose, for as long as we can, to put together all these pieces, whether it's personal development, whether it's the next steps. It's a bridge between the creative and financial freedom, because every creative, we want our patrons because that's our financial source. We can find our patrons, and we can also partake in being our own patrons in this type of world. You know, in this world, in this environment that we're living in, with a little bit of education, you can use that creativity, because your entire life is a creative process. The way you got dressed today is a creative opinion. You know, how you got out of bed is a creative opinion. Your journal writing is a creative opinion. Whether you showered or not is a creative opinion. What you ate for the day is a creative opinion.
Whether you're sweet or savory is a creative
Whether you're
opinion.
sweet or savory is a creative opinion, you know, and your creativity is your opinion, you know, and everybody's creative. Like, to bring it right back around to the book that we're reading, The
Artisan Soul.
The Artisan Soul, you know, that's the first chapter in that book talks about how we got to lower the bar of creativity. I had a quote, I took it off my Instagram because I got to reapply it in a new way, but it said that the difference between good and great It's not that one is better than the other. It's that good is the attachment to quality and like a spiritual like attachment to beauty and like what is correct, good, right? And great is about impact and execution. One doesn't supersede the other. You actually need both in life. You need to have an appreciation for what is good and what is of good quality and what is beautiful and what is righteous in the thing that you're doing. And you also would want greatness, which is all about achievement and execution, like the practical aspect of it. So good and great are actually, they're not in conflict. One is not higher than the other. And the artist is kind of craving a little bit of both. But sorry, I kind of got a little in love with that
No, you're
idea.
doing it. This is what this
Right.
is for.
So essentially the book is saying is like, we want to lower the bar on the idea of what a creative is, because we get so wrapped up by people who execute really well. And that is a distraction to make you think that if you're not executing in that level, that you're not a creative person, like that you're not an artist. You are an artist, you are creative, and that's everybody. And once we wake up to that, we can actually see how we can navigate all our situations with more wisdom, because it's a creative process. If you want a better life, you gotta find your creative opportunities within where you're at. There's my favorite chapter. One of my favorite chapters in The Science of Getting Rich is do all that you can within that day, within the realm that you are. What you're trying to do is be the best in your current situation, where you're like, be the best in your current situation so that you grow bigger than it. You're growing bigger than your situation. And that is the quality of people that get rich. The quality of the people that get rich is that they take the current circumstance and they find all the improvements that they can and max it out up until the point that they find new and bigger, higher heights to do. Instead of complaining of the circumstances, look at your circumstances as those opportunities to grow from those situations, wherever you are in life. Yeah.
Wow. Well, there's a few comments I want to make.
Sure.
The first one is when you mentioned, like, in the first chapter of Think and Grow Rich and desire. And I really love how you said, like, a lot of us, it's really hard for us to actually act out on our desires or believe that it's possible, because when we're a child, we're constantly told no. So I like that you put, I guess because you're about to be a dad, so you're thinking about dad things, right? You're thinking about, like, how am I going to raise my child, right? So that makes so much sense. Like, so much sense as to why we are programmed to not go after what we want. Obviously, our parents have good intention.
Yeah.
We don't.
Certain
If
no's
we're
are
touching a
necessary.
vase, right, and the vase is gonna fall and hurt us, no, don't do that, right?
Yes.
But in reality,
some no's are like the rules and regulations of just
yeah,
society
of
for us to
life,
like
of society,
move.
right?
Limitations are good. We can talk about that in another one. Limitations are
Yeah.
necessary. The canvas has limitations. Once you get started in the direction, that's saying no to other directions. We can get into that as well.
Also, we can break that. I'm an abstract painter.
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah, we can break that. We can break that.
We can break that.
Yeah.
I'm always,
But that's a choice. That's a choice. Because once you're abstract, you're no longer like realism.
That's another thing. Let me finish this comment. I want to point about the painters. I want to say something about painters too. But, like, for example, like with the vase idea, right? A child, maybe they're looking at the vase out of curiosity. They're looking at it because it's like they want to know what's going on, right? And I actually read this from a book. I don't remember what book, about the idea of the vase and the child going to the vase to touch it because it's curious, right? The child is curious. But then the parent is like, no, don't do that because it's going to break, right? But then the child can't comprehend at such a young age, like, oh, you're telling me I can't be curious, right? You're telling me I can't, just the idea of, like, don't be curious, right? That's in our subconscious, which leads into, like, the idea of desire, right? So that was one thing I wanted to comment on. Another thing I wanted to comment on, I forgot what you said, but I gotta start taking notes during this podcast so I could, like, go back to, like, what you were saying. it's something that you said that triggered in my mind on how like we're constantly like creating all the time. I mean, if we write down goals and we say, this is my 1 month goal, this is my 3 month goal, this is my 6 month goal, we are in the process of creating for those goals to come into fruition. And creating and manifestation is the same thing at the end of the day, right? In order for us to manifest something, we're creating as well. Of course, if it's under our, if it's also like, you know, part of God's plan too. But I don't want to, you know, let's just.
Let me add a little something. Like, what's the root? One of the root words in man, right? Like manifest is man, mano, hands.
Yes.
And it's something very in Spanish is mano. So like that means hands. Mano, manifest.
That makes a lot of sense. Manifest.
Yeah. And it's actually very interesting that we call ourselves man, and like, and it's also hand, and you know, it means to like do things, manipulate, like move things with your hands. Yeah. So some super thought.
That's a whole Google search. A whole hey ChatGPT, why are we called?
Yeah.
That's a whole Google search. But something that the idea of like we're always expressing, and you mentioned that, and I wanted to mention how like I remember what it was. It was when you mentioned that creative people are problem solvers, which is what we are, right? Whether you're making music and you're trying to figure out, like, what's the next step? Or when I'm painting, I think of painting as creating like doing puzzles. I used to love puzzles as a child. It's like a puzzle piece, and I'm constantly giving myself a struggle in my painting that I need to solve. Like if the painting is too easy for me, for some reason, I have to like mess something up, destroy the painting in the process in order for me to solve it and say, okay, what's next? I'm actually going through that in my painting right now. There's a painting I posted on my Instagram like a few weeks ago, and it was going so well, and then I kind of like ruined it, and I was like, damn, why did I do that? And then I'm like, I always do that. That's just my process of always constantly problem solving and figuring out what's the next piece to this puzzle. And to be honest, when I looked at the chart, it's the same exact process. It's the same exact process. Like when I break it down and I'm looking at the chart, I'm figuring out what's happening on the daily, what's happening on the 4 hour. It's the same process. I think of it as I'm figuring out a puzzle. And entrepreneurship in general, like you said, we're here to solve problems, right? So we're all using similar parts of our brain, and there's no reason why we can't think of ourselves as multidisciplinary at the same time.
Right. Exactly.
Exactly. That was a mouthful, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. No, it was perfect. It wasn't a mouthful. We've just been stacking it. But I think this is a good introduction. I think we should go into the next segment because we're about to run into the hour. I want to make sure that it's time wise. So for when I upload it on Spotify, you know, it's a nice easy listen. Like, you know, you don't want to we don't want to do Joe Rogan's podcast yet, you know, 3 hours and stuff. That's
we're not there yet. And also feel free, guys, you can hop on while you're cooking, the same thing that you do with other podcasts. Like I love listening to podcasts when I'm cooking, when I'm walking. Feel free to do the same. Like think of this as it's a podcast, right?
It's definitely a podcast. It's going on Spotify. The reason why I want to do it on Spotify is I like being open source. I like talking to people about the process a lot of the times. That's more what I like to do always. I've always been like, this is how I'm doing this is how I'm doing that. So, you know, I'm going to take this video and extract the audio and throw it up on Spotify, because I find that there's a problem with Instagram that I can't close the phone and just listen to it. I got to keep the app open, which is perfectly fine, because the more you guys watch our videos in entirety, the better we are with the algorithm. So just keep doing that. Keep liking and commenting all our stuff.
Share,
I am very greedy for all those engagements. Thank you.
There goes something in trade, the greediness, right?
For sure.
Yes.
But I was hyperbole, verbal hyperbole. But so, you know, but for the ease of access for people, you know, we got to throw it up on Spotify so they could just have it on their commute, so they can just, you know, go do the things that they need to do, you know. And we'll throw it up on YouTube as well, you know. We'll throw it up on YouTube as well, because, you know, it's about access to it and ease of access. So, like, you know, this is what I'm talking about being creative and solving problems, because I noticed that that's the first thing I noticed. A lot of the times I know so many people on Instagram that have these really long stories that I want to listen to all of it, but I got to stay on the stories to watch it. And I'm just like, oh my God, I want to hear the rest of this. But I'm like, you know, and I can't rewind it. Like, the ability to do the things that you need to do to the format is part of it. So that's why I'm going to throw it up on the Spotify. And then, just like and Padrino said, YouTube as well. You know, YouTube as well.
I'm not seeing the comments.
You're not seeing the comments?
I froze at 5 people, and I froze at the last comment I wrote, us women know. And then I'm like, shoot, did I say something wrong? Like, no one's commenting.
No.
Like,
You're right.
I don't see the comments.
So
damn.
Like, so I guess what our plan is, so excuse us if we're a little clunky on this, because I like being open, clunky on this just for a second. We, at the end of every podcast, we are going to do a little bit of, what would you call it? What would you call this? The market watch? It's not market watch. I said almanac. We're working on the name.
Yeah, we're working on, we're going to talk about what's happening in the markets, because that's what we want to bridge. Whether we start the podcast with art, or just talking about a book, or you know, just going through our ideas of what we learned this week. We always want to end the podcast with some just real information that's going on. I mean, Bitcoin hit
like ground
over 100. Bitcoin hit 104,000 per coin today.
Most definitely. That's insane. I remember when it was just 16,000. I remember, you know, like, I remember when it was in, like, 60,000. I think that might have been 7,000 maybe as well, like 2017. Can you believe that? We actually hit the 6-figure mark.
Yep. And I was telling people, I actually said, I don't know if you guys saw my stories, that I was looking through e-commerce. I was studying e-commerce, and I was looking through Etsy and SVG files. And then I was like, oh, let me look at SVG files for crypto. SVG files are basically, you can buy the logo on Etsy for like a few bucks, and you could transfer that into a shirt or hats or whatever it is and sell on Etsy. So while I was learning that, I was like, oh, let me look at SVG files for crypto. And then I got completely lost in the crypto like stuff. And then I found a candle, which I actually really want to order for myself. And it says, it smells like I'm right. It smells like I was right about Bitcoin. So I sent it to someone, because I've been in conversation with this one person, and he's an older person. He does investing and stuff, but I find that could be harder to grasp if someone's already like in their 50s or 40s, you know, and not impossible, but kind of harder to grasp.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, I'm not talking about everyone, just for like compliance or whatever I say. I don't want to, you know, upset anybody. But he was just like, it's still a scam, you know. And actually, it's a group chat with him and his wife, and I sent, it smells like I was right about Bitcoin, and she was like, he's been bitching about not getting into Bitcoin, and I'm like, excuse my language. But it's like, I've been telling people Bitcoin's gonna hit 100K. No, it's dropping. It's at 16K. Like, I'm telling you, as a trader, I use Bitcoin to transfer into my accounts. It's not going nowhere.
Not going anywhere. The markets are cyclical. The markets are cyclical. If the markets weren't cyclical, we would all just be dying. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need the ups and downs, just like the ebbs and flows, just like how the moon goes. The law of rhythm. The moon goes to a new moon, and then a full moon. The tide goes high, the tide goes low. You know, just like that, the financial markets can be seen the same way. Everything has its seasons. You know, everything has its seasons. So being an entrepreneur is very much, being a creative and an entrepreneur is very much being attuned to either the seasons of yourself, an artist, right? The seasons of yourself, like, where am I right now? Why do I feel this way? The internal weather. Being a person that's an entrepreneur, a small business owner, is like, well, what's the environment weather? You know, what season am I in? Like, is it too hot for hot chocolate right now? Maybe I should be selling ice cream. You know, is it too cold for ice cream? Maybe I should be selling hot chocolate. You know, all these things have dynamic you know, it's exactly how it was like being in a tribal society, but just another layer above. Like we're just another layer above of new abstractions, you know, symbols and things like that. More esoteric stuff that we'll get into in the future, because it could, you know, I can go a
We could
little
talk
far
here
with
for
that.
hours, but we want to make sure
I
this
could go far with
introduction
that.
is.
So, but yeah, so like at the end or the beginning, I'm not sure when is the best time to do it. We'll figure it out. We'll workshop it, because like at the beginning we could just get breaking news 100. You know, we want to start with
Actually, it
that.
might be better. What do you guys? I can't see the comments, but Brian can see the comments.
I
What do
wish I
you
could throw
guys
up a
think?
poll.
Huh?
I
Yeah,
wish
we
I could
could do
throw
a
up a poll,
poll.
but we'll throw a poll in the future.
Yeah,
We'll figure that out.
yeah.
Yeah,
What do you
in
guys
comments, what do
want?
you think? Beginning or the end? Should we get into like the tangibles of market stuff in the beginning and then go into like our esoteric stuff, or do we go like at the
I feel
end
like
and
in the
just
beginning,
in the beginning? Yeah, we'll
right?
alternate and we'll see how it
We'll see.
feels, right?
Maybe it could be in between. We'll see. We'll
We'll see. We'll
see.
see. So yeah, and then also you want can you go through the fourth quarter ecom as
Yeah,
well?
yeah, I can. So, whoa, there was so much. I had a list of things I wanted to mention. So it was Bitcoin hitting 100K. Obviously, I mean, you
Yes.
cannot be on Instagram without seeing it. Like, come on.
No,
Like at
you
this
can't
point,
ignore it.
like you can't ignore it. You cannot. Yeah, I had someone also text me like I should have started trading with you 2 years ago. I'm like, it's all right. I told you, but it's all
Yo,
right.
the
It's time to
best time
learn.
was back then. The next best time is right
Is
now.
now. Is now. So the other thing is that XRP. I want to go through like the market stuff first, and then we can go into ecom. The other thing I wanted to mention is, I mean, XRP. I mean, they partnered with Amazon last
Shoot,
August, in August 23, but now it's
shoot.
public, right? Now it's like official. That's huge because number one, XRP was 60 cents per coin a few weeks ago, like 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks less. It was
Definitely.
after I came back from Monterrey, and it's
And
been a month. 3 weeks
where
ago,
do you see
XRP.
and where do we see Amazon going? Absolutely everywhere.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a little trick, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
They're not
absolutely.
going nowhere. Amazon's going nowhere. Amazon is a part of our life. We need our 2-day shipping, same day shipping, fresh direct. We need all that. Like we're gonna need
Exactly.
the flying drones. We
But
need it.
now, yeah. Next, they're gonna be shipping with flying drones. Now, you can purchase things. Well, not now, but very soon, you can start purchasing things with XRP.
That's
What?
insane.
That's insane.
And Matt, now you got such a. If you had XRP, you're at a point where like now you can make Amazon purchases at what you say like 4x. Like say like they did it right now. It'd be like
Seconds.
your dollar is literally quadrupled in the Amazon
Yeah,
marketplace.
yeah.
Quadrupled.
Also, I'm holding. Before last night. I was actually thinking about should I reallocate some because what I did was I already had a little bit of XRP, but not that much. Bitcoin shot up, and one of the educators on the platform, she was talking about reallocating the same investment and just moving that same investment around.
Yeah,
So I was
yeah,
like, you know what, that's what I'm gonna do because that's really that's the definition of money working for you,
for
right?
sure.
You move right. So Bitcoin shot up. I asked my mentor, hey, I'm looking to take my my initial Bitcoin
Right.
investment, and I want to divide it into a few different crypto projects. He was like, he gave me a list. One of them was XRP. I moved over some Bitcoin into XRP. 2 days later, XRP shot up to like $1 something. I was like, yo, I was lucky. I
I mean,
was like, yo, I got
that's why you always have so the way I've learned like investment, you always at least crypto is leave a moon bag. Leave the moon bag in case it keeps going. Take your
that's a
initial, and then
good way to moon bag.
you
That's a
need the
good way.
moon bag. You need the moon bag in case you go to the moon.
Exactly.
You know?
And now it hit $2 something.
Yeah,
$2 something. And
it's insane.
with Amazon being partnered, and soon we're gonna be able to like make transactions with XRP. And for those of you who think that like who are still like, what what happens if the internet goes away? What happens to our crypto? Or like, how do I know it's
We
not a
have bigger
scam?
problems than that to worry about. We have listen. If the internet goes away, if the grid goes down, we have bigger problems
Bigger.
than
That's
your
when.
money. The new currency will literally be Poland Spring and bullets. Like that's where the world goes.
Well, let's
That's
not go there. Let's
no, no,
not
no,
go
no.
there. But
I'm saying no. Think about it.
that's
If
true.
the entire internet goes down, what happens? like all everything, like
The Walking Dead
your banks.
happens.
The money is not currency anymore. You know what's currency? Spam, Poland Spring, and like
Ritz crackers,
Ritz crackers
ramen.
and brute force. Like that's what ends up
Yeah,
happening. It's scary. So
yeah.
like it's best not to catastrophize. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like that's a huge catastrophication. Like that's literally like nuclear levels
And that's not a reason not to go into crypto at all.
Not at all.
And I lost my train of thought. What I said, for those of you who think that crypto is still, I lost it. We got into the
No, but
catastrophe
yeah,
things.
because I just want to emphasize it, right? Because that's like literally like that's really like thinking worst case scenario. And if you're gonna think worst case scenario, then go all the way and think worst case scenario because it ain't good.
If you're gonna think worst case scenario, you might as well go all in, right? As you go all in with everything else. Just I want to get to the ecom stuff, but for those of you who feel like crypto is still like, I hate this word, scam, or it's just a matter of fact that crypto allows you to send money without the banks involved, and there are 30% of the population is unbanked. We're talking about people who live in third world countries. It's very hard to have a bank. People who just don't want a bank. I mean, think about it. The banks are a business, right? Your credit card, you're gaining negative compound interest by being in debt with your credit card instead of being in the positive compound interest by investing, right? All of that. There's still 30% of the population that don't have a bank, that don't have credit cards, that have nothing to do with that. Imagine all of those people being able to send money directly to another person across the world within seconds, right? And nobody knowing about it, it being anonymous. It's just your crypto wallet. It's just your address wallet, right?
My mentor he had a project that then kind of, I think he sold it or either went out of business or like it just, I don't know exactly what the thing was, but it's called Coinbits, where I don't know if it was Africa or whatever, but people were able to send like through text, generate a wallet and send Bitcoin amongst each other when Bitcoin was really cheap.
Yeah.
I can go into some really deep things about Bitcoin in terms of utility, but that's not for this podcast.
All right, that's not for this one. Let's go into ecom. Okay, it is the fourth quarter, right? The fourth quarter is December. Everybody's about to start checking out, right? Even in my head, I'm like, okay, like my boyfriend is Mexican. During the holidays, they have like 10 parties back to back. And I'm already thinking like, damn, like I kind of don't want to party right now. Like I'm kind of not in the mood to like be festival, right? I'm like in hustle mode. I'm in the zone, right? A lot of people are checking out right now, right? So the reason why we're starting this now in Q4, quarter four, which is the last 4 months of the year, right? For those of you who probably don't know what Q4 means, is because we don't start our year on January 1st or December 31st. I mean, I don't know if this is still a trend or a fad where people start saying new me, new year, but really that got to stop. What you start your goals, you start your vision for the next year in quarter four. You should be doing it before that.
You start where you're at. You start where you are. Today, you start today,
right
period.
now, after this podcast, you start where you're at. You write down your 1 month goal, your 3 month goal, and your 6 month goal. How do you get there? Right? So we want to make sure that we set you guys up mentally and also with some notes. Like we mentioned XRP, what's going on with Bitcoin, what's going on with ecom. Ecom is a major business. Oh my God. I was researching because I want to sell home organization. I want to sell home things. Like that makes me excited. I have an Airbnb, right? It just makes me excited. It goes with my Airbnb niche, right? And in the future, I would love to make the Airbnb into an entire resort business. That's like maybe in my 50s, right? So that's long term. But I was researching on AliExpress. They were selling a shelf for $4.06. And on Amazon, someone was selling it for $85. So think about it. It's the holidays. It's Christmas, right? We got Valentine's Day coming up. We got New Year merch that you could be selling. It's literally infinite, endless that you can start learning now in quarter four. Whether you're learning about ecom, whether you're learning about crypto, whatever it is that your goals are for 2025, you should start really thinking about, oh my God, like, how can I make December a month where once 2025 hits, everybody is hungover, they're full from all the food they ate, they just started going to the gym on January 2nd, right? While everyone else is stumbling, crawling their way into 2025, how can you make December, these last few days of the year, completely catapult you into a quantum leap in 2025?
Definitely.
I don't know if I answered the ecom question, but you can go ahead and add.
You described it. You got it. You hit it on the head. You got it. Listen, this has been an amazing mastermind. Do you feel great about it? Because I feel great about it.
Great about it. Do you guys feel great about it? Can you tell me what's going on in the comments?
They're going